Right, morning and welcome to Last Cast. Today we're going to be using various techniques. I mean, the target species today is perch, although on our last outing with drop shots I managed to catch myself a nice little tench, which was a surprise, but that won't happen I don't think again. I think that was a once in a lifetime job. The idea today, as I say, is we're going to be using very ultralight tackle, drop shotting, tiny little jig lures, and we've got some small spinner baits and the good old favourites of tiny little spinners as well. Going to talk through sort of the basics to start with. Really what you need is, first off, if you're looking at the rod, I mean this particular one is a Savage Gear Black. There needs to be a reasonable length, sort of 7-8 foot-ish, because you're going to be controlling the rod. Casting weight on this one is 2 to 12 grams. Just gives you a bit more versatility if you want to then put on a spinner or a little jig or a lure or something. What I would always recommend, and again it's personal preference, is get something with a bit of a coloured tip on. Looks a little bit like a feeder rod. Reason for that is that if you're in, say, as we are here, a canal lock, sometimes when you're on the bottom it's hard to feel through the rod, but by having a different coloured tip you can physically see where you are, because you really need to be sort of fishing down on the bottom. So again, personal preference. Bob's the cameraman, his rod there, as you can see, no coloured tip on the end of it, but it's again personal preference on what you want to do with it. And again, the sort of weights on the rods can be anything from sort of 0 to 5 grams to whatever you want, but I wouldn't really say it's a good idea to go too much above sort of 12 gramish, because you're then losing that sensitivity, which ultimately is telling you what you've got. On that, as I say, Savage Gear Black, 7'4", 2 to 12 grams, great little rod, love it. I've then got on that a tiny little Shimano reel. I think it's a Solstice 2500. Not sure whether that's still in existence. It's one I've had for donkey's years, but it's been a good little reel to me. On that, we've then got, on mine, I tend to use the Power Pro, and this is £20 Power Pro, and I've gone for I think it's Slick 8 or Slick Power Pro Slick or something like that. It's just easier to cast and light. You don't really need up as high as 20, but it's the old adage, like I said in our pike videos, that if you get snagged up you've got a chance of getting it out, and also if you pick up a pike you've got a good chance of getting it as well. Going on to the rigs, I mean you can buy the rigs ready-made. I mean, to start with, I mean we only started doing this back end of this pike season this winter, and I bought a couple of ready-made rigs that you can buy on a little spool, etc. Probably worth doing that if you're starting out, because it then gives you some idea as to what it's all about, but also the added advantage is I've now got myself a little rig spool, so when I tie my rigs I can just put them on there and put it in your pocket. I mean literally what you see on the table, that's my bits and pieces, little lower traces, which I'll talk through in a bit. This literally is it. So everything's in your pockets. A couple of sizes of forceps for perch, and if I pick up a pike by accident, your box of tackle. I tend to use a little trout net. Again, it just sticks in your pocket. Very, very easy, very simple, very straightforward. The rig, tend to use round about £8 fluorocarbon. You have the little drop shot weights which have the slider on them, so that you can slot them on and adjust the depth, etc. The hook which is tied into the line, again I just use a Palomar knot there. On this particular one I've got these, I think the mustard, got those off AGM, I think it was, AGM Products website. A little tip then when you're tying your rigs is don't do anything. First thing to do is tie your hook into it. So if you get yourself a length of fluorocarbon, I don't know, a couple of 3 feet long, about mid to 2/3 of the way up, get your hook, which is a little offset hook, tie it in using a Palomar knot, which is pretty straightforward, and that way it doesn't move, etc. The reason you don't do anything else is until you've tied the hook in, you don't know which way up it's going to sit on the line. You know, you could tie it and put your hoop in and then you've got it the wrong way around. It needs to sit up from the hook, sorry, from the weight, so you've got it sitting like that. So tie the Palomar knot. Once you've done that and you know which way the hook's sitting, you're then going up to the other end, just tying a hoop, and then on the other end you slide it on your weight, which just literally slides on and then pulls tight onto your rig. I have a little clip on there so that you can just take your rigs on and off, and then literally that's it, you're ready to go. Get your little bait, and it literally is, you know, going on there as though it were a bait. So you're literally putting it on the hook like you would a maggot or something, onto the end, and then there you go. Little points on the little things. Tend to not use much above a couple of inch, and another tip is that the softer the rubber is, the better action you're going to get in the water. So it's worthwhile having a look around. As far as sort of the mainstream stuff goes, you can get that on usual websites, etc. But a lot of this stuff, as you can see on the table, you know, the little jigs and all the rest of it, tend to like to go to a bit more of a specialist website, and a lot of the gear, well, all the gear that you can see in front of you, is supplied by Alan over at AGM Products. They don't have a shop, it's just all on the website, but if you go on the net, AGM Products, you'll find it. Dangerous website, because there's so much on there, and you'll spend a penny, and then you'll spend another, and then you'll spend another, and it'll keep adding up. But some fantastic gear on there, and you know, if you don't know what it is that you're looking for, you know, ping Alan an email, and you know, I'm pretty sure he can sort you out. The other thing that's quite good on his website is that with a lot of the products, there'll be a picture at the end that'll show you the size of the products, either rigged up on a little jig as this one is, or rigged up as a drop shot, and usually with a 5p piece next to it. So what it does is it gives you a real good real life picture as to how big or small it is, etc. And there's everything on there, from the drop shots to the rigs. I mean, you know, we use the whatchamacallit, traces from there as well. It does some tiny little ones. I think they're about 18 pound breaking strain, really sort of hair strength, but you want to be doing that. If you're drop shotting, you're on your fluorocarbon. If you're then going on to putting on a little spinner or a little jig or whatever, I would always advise putting on a very light wire trace. As I say, the ones that we use are off Allen, and they're about 18 pound breaking strain, but they're literally like hair. The reason for that is that if there's perch there, 9 times out of 10 there'll be pike there, and the last thing you want to do, again, hook up a pike with one of those and then leave that in it. So just by putting on a little wire trace, you're there and you know what you're doing. Tend to prefer, personally, I think they call them Chartreuse lures, just a personal preference. Seems to have had more on it, etc. Now these can be rigged, as I say, as a drop shot or on a little jig, tiny little hook there, as you can see. Again, these just red, just to give it an extra bit of colour, again off AGM. And that really is it. Your other option then is the good old spinner, tiny little spinners. I mean, they go down as small as you know, the sort of 0 size, which again you need a very light tackle for to be able to cast those. If you've got, you know, serious pike tackle, you're just not going to be able to cast those out. What I've done, again with a couple of these that we got off Alan, is that I just add a little bit of colour to it myself. So that was just a pure silver little spinner. Literally what I've done is a bit of red paint, stripe on there, bit of red paint on the shanks of the hook, just gives you that extra little bit of colour. And other options, which you're probably getting up to the bigger stuff, and you really need to know that there's some bigger perch there, because you will start to pick up pike with things like this. But tiny little spinner baits, they really are small, you know, well put together things, real good for churning up. If you're searching out a bigger area, again, look at the little spinner baits and go through that. But it is really lightweight, and literally, as I say, I've got my extra wire traces and my fluorocarbon if I need to tie any rigs whilst I'm out and about. My box of toys, which literally is my weights, swivels, hooks, jellies, rubbers, whatever you want to call them, so that you can use them on the jigs, or you can just use them on the drop shots. And then I've got some that I've actually set up on you know, the little jigs, etc. from there, and then my spinners, and that's it. Reel, couple of sizes of forceps, that's it, off you go. Right, what we're going to do now is we're going to start off on the canal and see if we can target a few perch for you and show you how they go. We'll start off doing it on the drop shot, and then see how we progress with that. Ultimately, what we'll then do is we'll move on to probably having a go on the little jigs, and again keep you up to date with how we do with that. And then later on in the day we'll probably move on to the little spinners and see how we do with that. And then we got a bit of a comparison. Personally, if I'm targeting a feature like a lock or something along those lines where you've got a weed bed or that type of thing, drop shot's always good because you can literally keep it in the kill zone and you know where you're at and what you're doing. If you're moving out onto sort of open water, say if you're on a canal and you've just used your drop shot and you've gone through one of the locks and you've had a few perch out, you're then walking up to the next drop shot, it's probably an idea to put on a jig, tiny little jig or a spinner or a spinnerbait, because you can then cast as you're walking up and you're covering more water that way. If you hit into some perch and you know exactly where they are and they're up against the bank or whatever, again, put the drop shot back on. It's a 2-second job and then you're up and running again. You get to the next lock, drop shot back in, and off you go. We're going to do the canal. We're lucky here because we've got literally got the river, the canal, and then a lake. So we're going to do a bit of filming on the canal, see what we come up with. Once we've done that, we'll then progress on to the lake and see what we can come up with in there. And if we have time, we might even move on to the river and see what we can do with that. Right, here we are on our first lock. Again, what we're looking for is perch. Always look for the features, things like steps. Obviously the perch can get in behind there and hide and then just ambush everything. So you're looking for the features. I've got this set, so I'm fishing probably about 6 inch off the bottom. Yeah, again, with the setup you've got, you can undo the weight and move it up and down so you can adjust the depths that you're doing. And literally, you've got the, I don't know if you can see the tip there, but you've got the weights right on the bottom, and literally all you're doing is just imparting a bit of movement to it. The idea is not to oik it around and have it jumping all over the place, because if you imagine that's wiggling around down there like a little fish and you've got it right in front of the perch, so you're just jiggling it about a little bit, slight movements. What people tend to do is oiking it all over the place. You can cast it out and then work it back and jiggle it again, but the whole idea is that it's probably an idea when you first do it, when you've got it set up, do it in some water where you can see it and just play around, or even in the bath, whichever, then just play around with the rod and see what impars the action. As I say, that's when the softer the lure is, the more chance you've got of getting that movement in it. So here we go, and let's see what we end up with. Just fishing up against these steps at the moment, see what we come up with. We've got these locks open at the moment, so we've caught stuff here before, but usually when the locks are closed. Don't be worried about fishing in a closed lock, because to be honest, we've caught a hell of a lot of perch over the years in locks when they're closed. The fish go in there and tend to be in there out of choice. It's safe for them, etc. So again, don't ever be concerned about fishing a closed lock. You're going to have pike out of them. Just going to move up and down this bank a little bit here, which again imparting very little movement to it. See, I can't feel it, but I can see the tip because of the coloured end. And I'm literally just going to work it up and down this this bank very slowly. No rush. I'm going to do it a different way this time now. What I'm going to do is just going to flick it out. As you can see, I'm fishing about 6 inch off the bottom, the little thing there. I'm going to just flick it out over the other side there, and then I'm going to work it back towards me slowly. Let it go down so it's on the bottom, and then literally take up the slack, and then you just again watching the tip and working it back along the features, so in this instance back along the lock gates, just putting a pulse into it so it's jiggling around. Again, I tend to watch the tip rather than the feel of it. Depends which way around you want to do it. Just take up some of that slack again, different angle. The other advice when you're doing a canal is, if you notice, I never go and stand up at the edge, because no matter how deep the water is, the fish can always see you coming. But by standing back, the amount of times you'll catch them where your feet would be, right up against the locks, etc. Like the perch are playing ball today. This lock normally brings us a few out, but then again, as I said before, it's normally closed. Again, you know, you could spend half an hour or so just working on a particular lock. Sometimes worth changing your lures around as well. Some days they'll like pink, sometimes they'll like those Chartreuse, luminous lemony coloured ones. Just find it something that you're comfy with and that you start to catch on. It's like with lure fishing, you know, you tend to catch on the ones you prefer because you use them more. Right, I'm just fishing the open lock gates now. You can feel your way along the bottom, and you can feel the sill and then little drop-offs. The trick is just to sort of play it over those, because the perch will sit under them. I mean, you will get snagged, but it's a rarity because you're moving so slowly. You can feel it. That's just the bottom there. So a few weeks ago we were fishing this, and I had myself a tench on the drop shot, which only a little one, but it was certainly a bit of a strange one. I was saying to Bob, the cameraman, if this is a perch, it's a big one, and then up it came, a little green tench. So it just shows you, obviously thought it was a worm bobbing along the bottom, which is really what you're trying to demonstrate here. With the perch, its features, you know, you'll get them out in the middle, but you've got more chance up against the edges here, which is what I'm just doing. Just feeling it along the bottom. And again, you can adjust the depth. Right, we've tried this lock. Normally it's a good one for us, but as I say, one of the gates is open, so that's probably making the difference. Nothing showing here, not even a knock. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have a walk down the canal to a bridge that we've fished a few times, and it's darker underneath, so we'll see if we can find ourselves a few perch there. If we get no joy there, then we're going to head up to the next lock, and what we'll probably do is put on some little jigs and spinners and fish some of the open water on the way up, and then revert back to the old drop shots and see what we can get for you. So we'll head off down the bank now and see if we can get something from under the bridge. Yes, here we go. Success at last. Ourselves a little perch. Look here. Let's just get it up on the old little maggot. Oh. Yep, there we go, and we're into a fish. Oh, it's a nice perch. It's a net job. This is a good fish, mate. And we're in. Look at that for a perch. Right, alright, there we go. Nice little perchlet. All you people. There you go. See the little Chartreuse in its mouth. Nice fish. Let's get him back in and let him swim on. we go. Right, we've done the canal. We've had that nice fish, and we've had a few little ones and bits and pieces. So it's a bit, there's a lot of colour in it. It's a bit chocolatey. So what we're going to do is we're going to head off back down now, have a break, and then we're going to hit the lake this afternoon and see whether we can come up with some more in there. It's a lot clearer in there. A couple of nice breams just swimming past now. I don't like these things though. So we'll head off down there and we'll catch up with you on the lake later. See you soon. Right, first cast, and nice little perch look, and another little, same as we were using this morning, with the chartreuse, but a little pink one, so it looks like a little worm on the red hook. Again, don't really need the net because it's that small. Get it back in, tiny little one, but nonetheless it's a perch. Not bad. First cast on the lake. Let's see if we can get another one. Very weedy here. There's perch there. Yep. Oh, bloody big pike as well. Right, I wouldn't normally have lifted that one, but probably couldn't see it on camera. There was a big pike came out the corner after it, and normally I would have netted it out, but as you can appreciate, I didn't want the pike to get it, so there we go. Going on a nice little pinky. So beautiful colour marks on that. And you can pick it up. And again on the little pinky, let's put it back in. Right, we've just gone for a wander around and we've come back. Before we went, we've put a camera in here, in this little, where the water's coming in, little eddy. This is where we had the perch that the pike nearly got. And we've put a camera in underwater, and I'm just going to drop this in front of it now and see whether we can get some action underwater, which would be great, but let's see what happens. There's fish coming out. There's a few under the, actually under the waterfall. Stuffed with them down here on this sand. It's like fishing for crabs off the pier. And loads of hits. Right, we've had loads of wax there, but they're not taking it down, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put on a smaller jig and then put it back in front of the camera again, see what happens. Right, I've gone for a little 1 inch instead of a 3 inch. Little relax again from Alan over at AGM. So Alan, let's see what your little relaxed shad does this time. Should look good in front of the camera if nothing else. Yeah, I'll put silver one on. Push on. Perch on the bird. Again for a little fish. Put it back in. Hi. Yep, there we go. Nice little perchlet. There we go, it's a bit of a better one. Oh, nice little lure. Whoops, a daisy. There we go. Tiny little golden spinner. Put that back and see if we can get a bigger one. Right, well we've come to the end of the day. It's been a hard day, but it's been a good day. We've concentrated mainly today on drop shotting, as we said, and the little pink and the little lime green lures of worms have, should I say, have done the business for us. So we've done good there. Meant to sort of cover other principles as well, but I think what we'll do is we'll do another session where we concentrate on little micro jigs, and then we'll have another one where we concentrate on sort of micro spinners, again targeting the perch, and then that way we've got a bit of a comparison. So really just to say thanks for watching, and if you like it, subscribe, and we'll catch you next time on Last Cast. Little tip when you're tying your rigs. I forgot what I was saying then. A little tip then when you tie. Thought it was a fish then. One good thing with a canal, if you get snagged, it's easy to get around the other side and try and get it out. There we go. Put another lead on. Work these lock gates, see what's there. Thing to remember is when you come to where it says the sill, it goes down by about another 3 or 4 foot. So it's a good spot for perch to sit. That's where the other one was, on the underside of it.
You're losing your voice?
Why does it sound?
Sound like
I've just coughed. Maybe that's.